Using FreeCAD, you can achieve or design the same parts that you can design with most other software. The problem is that it's gonna take you probably more time, and you have to be much more organized. It's gonna take you to the very fundamental aspects of how to draw something, versus commercial software are designed to help you navigate the flow of design very easily. So here you have to know about primitive parts, about restrictions, about degrees of freedom, and we're talking about that now. For instance, if you want to create a 3D object, you would do that under a part, which is on this set of options. But if you only want a 2D model, then you do only sketch. So let's see the difference. Let's create a new file. I'm gonna delete that part. So just close it. I'm not gonna save it. And a new file, if you go to Sketch or Sketcher, then you're gonna have the settings for getting your sketch done. So then you have to click on Create a Sketch, and then you choose what plane to sketch from. So let's say you're gonna start from that plane, and then you have your objects here as we were mentioning before. So let's say you have a rectangular shape, and then you're gonna create it anywhere. That's fine. Then right click to exit the operation. Otherwise, you're gonna keep clicking on rectangular shapes until you exit the rectangular command. So if you notice, you can move this around, you can stretch, compress, deform, etc. And that's because here on your tasks, it's gonna tell you that you have 4 degrees of freedom. What does that mean? Well, that means that you can move it left 1, right 2 degrees of freedom. You can compress vertically, and you can compress or stretch horizontally. So in order to fix that, you're gonna have to create some restrictions. Those restrictions are under the tab right here. So the first restriction would be your location. So we're gonna say it's gonna start at 0 and 0 for X and Y. So starting from the origin, and now you only have 2 degrees of freedom. So that is fixed by the dimensions. So if you set this to say 20 millimeters and 20 millimeters, now you have 0 degrees of freedom. It's completely fixed, and your part will stay green. So if you have to design a drawing for, say, a client that you're doing some electrical wiring, or you're fixing something for a client, if you have a side business, you only need 2D designs with dimensions and some shapes, then the only thing you have to do is go to FreeCAD, do the sketcher, new sketch, and design your stuff. Okay? And that's enough, because then when you file, save, export, you can export as a PDF, and then when you open your PDF, or you send this to a client or to a colleague or to your professor, to a friend, this is all you need to show them in order to understand your drawing. And that is pretty much all you need to show them in terms of your drawing. So of course you're gonna have more parts. Then all you need to do is come to the sketcher and select whatever you want. So let's say I'm gonna do a polyline. So you basically create your line however you want it. And a polyline, as we know, will just keep creating things until you are finished with with your part. Okay, so right click to exit polyline, and then as you noticed, this has 8 degrees of freedom because you can move everything around and it's not fixed. So the first thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to say that this line is horizontal, so that's okay. But this line is not horizontal. So you start restricting your line with the restrictions that we talked about. So vertically, I'm going to restrict this point with respect to the origin. I'm going to say is 10 millimeters. So let's do different distance. So that line is going to be at 50 millimeters. Okay. And I can even organize my distances to show it on my PDF in much better and organized fashion. Then I'm going to do a distance. This line is going to be, let's say, 10 millimeters, and this line is going to be 10 millimeters, and this line is going to be 20 millimeters. I only have 3 degrees of freedom. This line is going to be 30 millimeters. Okay, and then we're gonna say that this line is gonna be 9 millimeters, and that's okay. I think that's all I need, because then I can fix it like that, and have that degree of freedom as a free degree of freedom, and then I can change it later on. Okay, so I can move my distances so I can read them, and then when you save this as a PDF, it's going to be exported, and you can send this to your client